Exactly what Jews in Europe were experiencing before Holocaust.
To correlate the world we're living in to our history is not to understand our history. The Jews have never had it so good. In France, the Jews have never had it so good. In England, it's not the way it's supposed to be. And what's going to happen tomorrow, nobody knows. And let's be honest, for the first time in 2,000 years, we have a place to go. I belong to the world that's always going to err on the side of the world is better. The world is not that bad. It's just not.
There's a big social media influencer and saying that things are getting bad. It's really bad in America now. Exactly what Jews in Europe were experiencing before Holocaust. So Jews in America really should get ready, move to Israel.
Okay, I have opinions about this. But I just want to make the point that this is my opinion. I feel this way very strongly, and I feel this way because of the Rebbe's influence on my life. But I don't know. I believe this. First of all, the rabbi said something before, which is so fundamentally true. It bothers me to no end how many people think that the sign of intelligence is to be negative and frighten people.
There's a big,
it's such a widely held cultural belief.
And saying that things are getting
and it's so stupid. It's so rotten. It's so self-destructive. The only pleasure you get from frightening other people is seeing that they're afraid. Otherwise, your life's terrible. Why would you choose to live this way? And it's so culturally normal. You have to understand, I was raised by the Rebbe. The Rebbe had, Kalman says in the book, positivity bias. I was raised by a man who always said, if you have a choice, look at the cup as half full or half empty, look at it as half full. I belong to the opposite world of those social media pundits. I belong to the world that's always going to err on the side of the world is better rather than worse, as opposed to the alternative. Now, but there was a Holocaust. Right. And how could you not be afraid? Now I'm going to say something very, very disturbing. But again, this is what I believe. Holocausts don't just happen. There's another component. You've been around Chabad, right? So you know that we talk about Mashiach all day long. The Rebbe talks about Mashiach all day long. The Rebbe believes that we're at the end of the ride. And I believe him. You don't have to. I believe him. Now, the world is very confusing, and people are particularly confusing. But the diet of negativity and pessimism and fear that is being fed to us is, I'm going to use is evil. It's not only wrong, it's evil. And the people feeding it to us, who consider themselves intelligent, to call them cowards is not enough of an insult. They're megalomaniacs. They need so much to have an influence on people's lives, they're prepared to ruin them with fear. It's so foolish. Do bad things happen? Of course. Will bad things happen? Of course. You want to live that way? And you're almost being told that if you don't live that way, you're unintelligent. There's something wrong with your intellect. And to me, that's really the essence of religion. What is the difference between religion and religion? Now I know that I'm going to have to hear all the crap about Christianity being about hell and heaven. I don't even believe Christianity is that. But Judaism certainly isn't that. If you are a religious person, you live in God's world. And if you live in God's world, you live in a good world. If you're godless, you live in a world of random. This is the very essence of religion. Not just that God exists, but that God's in charge. He's a pretty good guy. He's hard to figure out. It's not our job to figure out, it's our job to live and to trust Him. This is my thinking, this is my philosophy, this is what I teach my own children. And reality pummels us with fear. It's almost never justified. It's almost never justified. I see no reason in the world that you and I are living in today to give it merit. The world is not that bad. It's just not.
And what about the Jews in France? You know, the Arab population is like increasing and Jews are cornered or ghettoed or endangered or threatened.
Have you ever met the French Jew? You live in France or you live here? You live in France or you live here? You're disqualified. My son is in yeshiva in France right now. You ask French Jews, they will be insulted by the question.
My many cousins live in France too. And
I want to tell you something. What's your first name? Your first name? Huh?
Shalom.
Bracha. Do you know Jewish history?
I'm learning.
Do you know how much Jews have suffered?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you understand that for most of our history, suffering was normal? My father told me, he came from Russia after the Holocaust, and they were in displaced persons camps. And they came to Paris, 1947, and a French boy threw a rock at his head. And my father said to me, that was normal. That was expected. He wasn't upset. That's how they treat us 2 years after the Holocaust. So I'm asking you, do we live in that world? What I'm saying to you, in other words, is, this is just my opinion. I'm not God, I'm not the Rebbe. I would like to believe that I allow the Rebbe to govern my thinking. But of course I could be wrong. The Jews have never had it so good. In France. The Jews have never had it so good. In England. It's not the way it's supposed to be. And what's going to happen tomorrow, nobody knows. And let's be honest, for the first time in 2,000 years, we have a place to go. To correlate the world we're living in to our history is not to understand our history, in my opinion.